As a source of electric power and other essential services for the people of Glasgow, the Glasgow Electric Plant Board is responsible for making those services as reliable as possible. That means that we must keep tree limbs out of our power lines. Some of our power lines can carry up to 69,000 volts. When a tree branch rubs against these lines, it allows current to flow from the branch to the ground. While it is harmful to the tree, it can cause an electrical outage affecting not only your home, but sometimes entire neighborhoods. Since the great ice storm of 1994, we have been trimming the trees this way. Trimming the trees in the middle of large branches allows for dozens of new sprouts to grow from where the branch has been cut. So now we'll have even more branches to cut in the future. These new sprouts grow so quickly that in a few months we'll have to trim the branches again. These new sprouts also provide avenues for disease to enter the tree. We understand that trimming the trees this way is more pleasing to our customers because the trees will eventually grow back to their lush fullness. However, the lush fullness in many cases happens within 6 months, creating a vicious cycle of branches constantly requiring trimming as they grow into our power lines again. Utility companies and professional arborists now agree that this is not the best way to trim trees. The best way to trim trees is a method referred to as lateral trimming or directional trimming. Lateral trimming causes the tree to grow away from the wires. These trimming principles have been endorsed by the International Society of Arboriculture as well as tree care professionals around the country. This type of trimming cuts the branches back to the base of the tree. After the branch is cut back to the base, the tree will heal over, making the tree healthier in the long run.
There are really 3 effective methods, or proper methods for pruning trees and protection against the power lines. One would be what arborists call pollarding, and that's removing the mass of the tree, the crown of the tree, down to one basic stem, one basic trunk or branch system. The next is lateral pruning, which is where the arborist or pruner actually goes back to the main trunk and takes a larger section of the tree out. The third method is whole tree removal, and that's the more drastic method. And some public utilities are subsidizing the cost of whole tree removal and planting low height shrubs and trees that don't affect the power lines for many, many years to come. The previous method of just randomly cutting a limb as it begins to obstruct a power line is really not the proper method. It's similar to a method that was popular years ago in tree topping. We have discovered scientifically that topping of trees is not the proper method. It actually harms a tree. It weakens the tree's branches, so you're going to have more possibilities of power line damage. It starves the tree because you remove too much of the crown system, which the tree needs to create food. And it also opens up the tree for more insects and disease, and it creates what we call water sprouts, which are many sprouts, because you're removing the proper buds, the vertical buds, which are the proper growth of the tree. So what you're doing is you're creating these water sprouts, which is a very short-term effect to the power line. You have to come back year after year and remove these water sprouts, whereas if you use the pollarding method or the lateral tree method or whole tree removal, you get a longer-term, more cost-effective means of removing tree obstructions from power lines. One recommendation I would make would be, if you choose to do the whole tree removal, contact a landscape architect or an arborist, and they would make recommendations depending on the aspect, the slope, the water conditions, the soil conditions, and they could recommend a proper species of tree to plant under a power line so the obstruction would not occur for, like I say, many years to come.
Talking about tree trimming is always a problem for us at the Electric Plant Board. Obviously, we'd rather not trim trees. It costs a lot of money, and it generally upsets people, and it interferes with people's daily lives. We really don't like trimming trees, unfortunately. The number one outcome that people expect to get from us, from the services we offer at the Electric Plant Board, is reliability, and not just reliability as it exists today, but really an increasing level of reliability. People expect our product to get better every day. And the number one problem with our reliability in Glasgow is trees. It's followed closely by animals, squirrels and what have you, but believe it or not, that's closely related to the trees. The closer trees are to lines, the more squirrel problems that we have. Were it not for tree problems and squirrel problems, your electric service or internet service or cable TV service would almost never be interrupted. The only thing left is equipment failure or storms like a tornado or lightning or something. Pretty rare events, fortunately. So we cannot change the physics of the situation. When a tree limb touches an electric conductor, it short circuits that conductor to ground and causes people's lights to go off. Often those lights are not just you. You may say, well, you know, I'm so fond of my tree that I don't mind the occasional outage, and unfortunately the tree in your yard may affect the power for 1,000 other people. And among those homes will be people living on oxygen supplies that could be interrupted by the power being off, and several other physically challenged situations where that in today's world a power interruption is not just an inconvenience but often can be a threat to people's health and welfare. So I know nobody likes to trim trees. Nobody likes us trimming trees, and as I've said, we don't like trimming trees. But the simple fact of the matter is there's no other way to make electric service, cable service, internet service, telephone service reliable but to keep trees back away from our lines. This big push that we're making right now is all about the realization that the way we've been trimming trees in the past spends just as much money as we're going to be spending now, but does not deliver the adequate long-term protection from the trees that we should be getting for that amount of money. It also is not the healthiest alternative for the trees. So we're going to be changing the way to a more aggressive lateral trimming philosophy that will result in healthier trees and more reliability for our electric system. And we're doing our best to give you all the facts relating to this matter and make sure that you're aware of the alternatives, tree removal. It's also, you know, if you want to have your own tree trimmer come around and trim in a less aggressive fashion but trim more often, as long as none of your trees or the trees in your area touch our facilities, we'll be satisfied with that. But in reality, the only way to get this done is using this lateral trimming method that we've embarked upon. It will leave the trees aggressively trimmed, and there's really no way to negotiate that or have a different opinion. That it's going to have to be done, and we will be doing it. We're going to be notifying you, giving you all the opportunities that we can to inform you of what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, there's really no other way around it. This is going to have to be done, and we'll be trimming in this fashion in your neighborhood either sooner or later.
We plan to begin this more aggressive trimming process by late May or June. We will start trimming in the north area of our system and work our way through the entire system over the next 3 years. After doing this, it is our hope that we will be able to maintain the vegetation ourselves with our own equipment.